big news breaking this morning before we pull apart the grand final. It's done. West Coast has announced Andrew McQualter as their next senior coach. Thoughts early?
Well, as far as we can tell, it looks like a good decision. He certainly had a bit to do with the Tigers' success, so that's what I'm sort of buoyed by. Wouldn't sort of say his Melbourne experience was great, but that was only 1 year. And he did coach the Tigers, of course, for 13 matches.
7-6 record in a difficult period. So that's pretty impressive.
50%, not just over 50%.
Slightly over, yeah.
Not too bad. He sounds like a fantastic guy, and I saw some vision. They had Don Pike going around to his house in Melbourne. The Eagles have released that.
It's amazing. To meet the family, present some shirts.
Yeah, see the kids. The kids were drawing, colouring in Eagles heads and saying what an adventure this is going to be, Dad. So it's going to be an adventure, all right. So let's hope it all goes well. I think it's a 3-year contract, eh? So he hasn't got, the big long one, but it's going to be a lot of pain for 3 years.
Well, let's pull it apart.
Yeah.
I don't believe the next coach of the Eagles is going to be their next premiership coach. Well, let me put it this way. It's Andrew McQualter can prove us all wrong. And let's hope he does. But I think this is still a fair way off. I think they're 4 or 5 years off. They've got that meaty part of the list. So starting to
Which
get
he's going to help change.
He will help because already Liam Baker and Jack Graham have announced they want trades to West Coast. So,
and he'll be making sure that happens.
Well,
let's call
that done, right? So that is going to help that middle part of the list, that experienced middle part of the list, which they basically haven't got, which is what they need to
and
help
Owies,
drive
I
them
heard
up
they
the
were
ladder.
talking to Owies last week as well from Carlton. He's in that age range and can kick a few goals.
Yeah, so that's what they need, as well as keeping the elite junior talent coming into the competition, and of course their ability to retain Chad Warner in 2 years' time when his contract's up. That will be so. This relationship will be crucial to that. Now he's known as a great communicator, so all tick.
Good development coach.
I think all three candidates, Stephen King, Hayden Skipworth, and probably certainly a few others who pulled out of the race, were all good candidates, and they took their time with it.
Scully.
It's Jared Schofield I feel for.
So you stay around, you reckon? Obviously, that's the first chat. Doesn't sound like he's brought anyone with him, McQualter, at this stage. So it's early days.
But you do, don't you? You do that as a coach.
You normally do.
I'm just pleased that they've made a decision now, and you can move. And it's the start of trade week, sort of happening at the end of this week. So,
let me ask you this then. So obviously Liam Baker coming. Obviously they're going to have to give up Barrass's pick. So they're going to get pick 12 and give it back to Richmond, right? That's how it's going to work. Is that a lot?
Well, they'll also
feels like a lot.
Giving up a lot?
Pick 12 for Liam Baker. Is it 10 or 12? 10, I think it's 12.
What is he, 26, 27?
Premiership player. Sounds like a lot.
But yeah, it might be.
Like, I reckon a lot of Eagles fans would be not too happy about that because they want to rebuild.
So they're going to get might get a future second as well from Hawthorn.
They'll have to get something. Yeah. They'd have to get something extra.
So if you can get something extra thrown in, it might sate the appetite a little bit. But,
he's good friends with Shea Bolton too, obviously, from being at Richmond, but I don't think the Eagles can get that deal done. So
Freo have 3 first-rounders. So
Shea's going to Freo, right?
You would think so.
Jack Graham and Liam Baker
going to West Coast.
And Jack Graham's a free hit. But I still think 12's a lot. I hope they get something at the back end of the trade. Do you know what I mean?
Good player. Be interested to see what he's going to... You're not talking about a superstar midfielder, but you're talking about a bloody good midfielder or half forward, So I think I like his in, but you're quite right, just what they give up for him is going to be the key for West Coast fans.
Because it's a pretty good draft, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, it goes to about 20 really good crop of midfielders, but after that it drops away a bit. So it's good. It's a good draft to have early picks in. So Freo's really well set up. I think that well done to Andrew McQualter and to Hayden Skipworth and to Jared Schofield and to Stephen King for actually putting their hands up and wanting the job, Barra. Because I know it's a tough one. It's going to be a bit of pain ahead here, but why wouldn't you want that job? It's a great opportunity to prove yourself.
Now, the other thing I would say is that he's come from Melbourne, And I tell you what, I think it might be actually a good time for him to get out of Melbourne.
And it's also not a bad experience because he's come from, let's be honest, it's been pretty hard yards over here and he's had some pretty hard yards at Melbourne. So he's sort of acclimatised to it a little bit.
He knows what he's coming into because Melbourne is struggling. Mate, they are in disarray. I wouldn't be surprised if the CEO pulled the pin at some stage, Gary Pert. Like there's all these two external reviews. One of them, there's one into Christian Petrarca and the way his injury was dealt with. I mean, which has created huge angst. I think the Demons have still got a lot of problems. People probably hate me saying that, and I'm not trying to run down the Demons, but I'm not sure that they've cleaned up their act yet.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? That is fair. McQualter, we touched on it earlier, but the 3 premierships at Richmond where he was integral as a right-hand man to Damien Hardwick. And then I thought he did the caretaker job he did was really, really sound. And so, obviously...
What was your reading of Uze getting the job, though, and not him?
Well, he ran second to Uze. I think Uze is a terrific coach, but let's be honest, mate, it's the basket case at the moment of a list because everyone's dropped off. We've got Dusty didn't take place in the grand final retirement parade, so he's going to Gold Coast. I guarantee you. I don't think that
who's in a better place, Richmond or the Eagles?
Eagles.
Eagles.
Because they've started their rebuild, and Richmond
so he's had the last laugh missing out on Richmond then, hasn't he?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, maybe. If you're saying Richmond's Eagles in a better spot,
maybe.
He's probably advanced himself. Uze's got to carry the can now.
Well, yeah. I think it's going to be a long haul for both, but I think both teams get in ahead of the Tassie discount. So the team that worries me is Collingwood, because they've got a lot of older players on that list and they're going to have to regenerate. I think Geelong's done it okay. I was surprised to see there were 7 debutants in their first final debutants. So it shows you their list turnover's going okay, because we all expected them to be old and falling off the edge. So really interesting times. Well done to the Eagles. Well done to Andrew McQualter. It's the start of something new. He'll get a...
honeymoon period?
There'll be a honeymoon period.
How long do you give him is the honeymoon period?
Well, at least he gets a season, because you've got to, well, let's be honest, Barra. I mean, it can't get any worse than it has the last few years. And so a lot of the kids have got, well, you probably can, because McGovern's going to retire and they're going to lose Barras. But I think Harry Edwards...
Jack Darling
leaves. Just I think that's a positive for them. And that's not a slant on Jack. It's just that where he's at and where the club's at, that needed to happen.
To say that it's good that he's left.
Yeah, it is good. It's good that he's left.
Don't feel you need to.
No, but I'm not. It's not a
clarify your comments.
But it's not a. I'm not saying he's one of the.
We
second
want to
highest,
see Jack Williams get a bit more time.
Absolutely, and Harry Edwards is obviously settling into that defence. So there are pillars there. They've got a bit of the structure. They just need that meaty part of the list. So it's a big job for McQualter ahead.
How much time does McQualter, it's with a Q, McQualter, spend with Harley Reid then? Because the worst possible scenario for him is that Harley leaves.
So I think McQualter, not knowing him, but the talk about how he handles his players is that he's an all-in man, so there's not the favourites at the top end, there's not the favourites at the bottom end. I think he needs to come in where that list's at, and I think he needs to treat everyone equally, obviously there are players who are at the very top end. Harley's there's talk that he's leaving after his 3 years, let's be honest about it. So, with a new coach can change your mind pretty quickly.
So he's done 1 year, he's got 2 to go. So that he could leave in the second year of McQualter.
So McQualter's, I think the biggest challenge facing McQualter, apart from getting that list right totally, is either gaining Harley's confidence, and so Harley can see a really good pathway ahead at this club, or determining, he's not going to hang around, so let's get what we can at the right time in terms of the timing of it. 2 first-rounders, draft coming up. They're the sorts of things that are going to be in the background as he takes this list on and tries to... I think Eagles supporters are happy to see a fresh start and give him a honeymoon period, but you want to see some incremental growth. So you want to see him losing by less. Yes, you want to see him winning more games, but you want to see that gap between their best and worst closing a lot more quickly than it has been. I think that's probably what he has to aim for in season 1.
But talking about Harley Reid, though, and watching him during the grand final and also see him knocking around with the Brisbane Lions boys after the game as well, and talking to Cuzzy, mate, his thing is about playing premierships. So if he doesn't see vast improvement in the next 2 years, he's a living certainty to leave. A living certainty.
Well, mate, it's not going to happen. I think they're winning a flag in the next 5, mate.
But they're just going to have to be, at the end of 2 years, going to be, on the cusp of the 8. The young blokes coming through. Elijah Hewitt becomes the player we hope. And suddenly, there is some light at the end of the tunnel here, because he won't want to be waiting around for a flag.